Hey, what's up, guys? Joe here, and I bring you a good news and sad news at the same time. So, if you have a podcast, okay, if you have a podcast with Google, trust me, uh, there's good news for you, and then there's a bad news for you. So, as you can see right here on my screen, and now if you have a Gmail account, I believe you received this. So that for those of us who have what's it called now, podcast on Google Podcasts, um, we know. Okay, so here it reads. Recently, we announced that Google Podcasts will be going away this year. In order to ease this transition, you now have access to a tool that allow you to easily migrate your show subscription to YouTube business, or to download a file of your show subscriptions, which you can upload to an app that supports their import. Okay, just like Google Podcasts. So with YouTube Music, you can listen to podcast on the go using background play, and you can download podcast and even do more with no paid uh, membership required. So just like Google Podcasts is free, when you're there in Google Music, remember I think Google Music has a kind of like a subscription attached to it, but you pay for um, I mean, you're not paying for any membership when you do this transition. Okay, so after June 3rd, 23rd of 2024, you will no longer be able to listen to podcasts in Google Podcasts. According to Google, after July 29th, 2024, you will no longer be able to migrate or export your subscriptions. Okay, so the time to do it is now, and this is going to last until July the 29th of this year, and after which you're not going to have the option to export your subscription. So if you have a podcast on Google Podcast, then go right now and export your subscription and transfer that to Google. YouTube Music. So after 23rd of 2024, you will no longer be able to listen to podcasts in Google Podcasts. Now, you can see the timing. In June 23rd, you're no longer going to have, you're not going to be able to play your podcast, or anybody at all is not going to have the access to play any podcast on Google Podcasts, except for YouTube Music, okay, or on YouTube Music. So, and this is going to take place on the 23rd of this year, or June 23rd of this year. What am I saying? So June 23rd of this year is when you're going to be able to, okay. So after June the 23rd of this year, you're no longer going to be able to listen to podcasts on that platform. So after July 29th, is a repeat, you will no longer be able to migrate or export your subscription. Please, 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 you've put in a lot of work, and it's good that you do the needful. Go export your podcast and the subscription, and and migrate to where it's supposed to be, which is YouTube Music. So your Google Podcast data will remain available to you in Google Takeout. Okay, so they have something called Google Takeout, which your podcast data will remain there for 1 year after Google Podcast is fully deprecated. Now, after which time it will be deleted. Just like any hosting. You can also delete your data by deleting your Google account entirely. Please note that deleting your Google account will result in deletion of all data and content in that account, like emails, files, calendars, and photos. So be aware of that. Now here is the manage subscription. You can click this button to go there. Please note that in order to access the migration and export tools, you will need to be you will need to be on the latest version of Google Search and Google podcast apps, and have a valid account type. If you are not on a support account, or app version, you will only be able to access migration and export tools on the web version of Google Podcasts. Users on Android or iOS apps who have not updated to the latest app version by July 29th will be automatically redirected to the web version of Google Podcasts. Some features are not available in the web version of Google Podcasts, including downloading. So if you have question, Google has a support resource here which you can access. And yes, that is it. If you have a podcast on Google, please. And if you don't know how to do this, or you think it's going to take you time, send an email. Let's talk so that we can help you to do this. Without we call it a day and see you next time. Please subscribe and support this channel to grow and for us to, of course, be happy and keep making videos like this. Thank you guys, and see you next time. Bye bye.